Hey
Hey,
everyone,
Matt.
welcome to the next Devs in the Shed. Hey Paul, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, welcome everybody to a new episode. Matt, I am seeing an unfamiliar background.
Yeah, so this is our spare bedroom. This is where I usually work out of most of the day. The reason for that is I can't go outside at the moment because I've got builders out there. So for safety regulations, I'm leaving them to own the outdoor area of my place, and I'm staying inside until the building's finished. So I'm building see if the focus gets right on the camera, but I'm building a wood cabin. So this will be my new working from home area. It's not exactly a shed; it's more of a cabin, but it should be pretty fun. So
I think shed cabins, same thing,
shed
like a little
cabin,
bit more
yeah,
luxurious,
a
right? At
little bit
least it's
more like
outside.
yeah, and I'll have Cat 6 running to it. I'll have power, aircon, it's insulated. So it should be a really nice space working from home. I've got a small house, so it's going to be a world of difference. Considering I've been remote for quite some time, and I plan to stay remote. And hey, I can see there's a couple of people on. Good evening. Whereabouts are you from? If it's evening, it's our lunchtime in Australia. I know it's probably very early morning for some people that join from Singapore and other parts of Asia. But I'm guessing Brazil, America. Let us know in the chat.
It'd be also
We
interesting to see how other people are going working remote and whether anybody else has set up like a private study, a shed, or a cabin in the backyard. I know a number of
Yeah,
my friends are doing something similar as well.
I think it's a definitely good idea, and like it's going to be a really amazing space on the weekends as well. Like when it gets really hot, can get up to 40 degrees here, which is Celsius. I'm trying to do the conversion in my head. It's something like 105 Fahrenheit, but maybe with your time in America, you might remember the conversion better than me, Paul.
I think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Chicago, nice, excellent. Good to see you. Yeah, so I'm going to have the aircon on during the summers. We might camp out there on the weekends and play some video games, but we'll see. So today, we're going to do the what's new. There's a couple of things that we'll run through. But one thing that we're really keen to do is have a blog. We've been doing videos on our YouTube. During the week when we can't book the AWS Twitch channel. Uh, those videos have gone really really well. We've had quite a few people join in on those particular streams. Maybe you want to put the YouTube link in the chat, Paul.
Yep, I'll grab
But
that.
yeah, but the other thing is like sometimes we just want to write or document something down. We find it a lot easier to kind of communicate some ideas and share some gotchas that are a bit complicated to watch happen over video and happen fairly quickly. So it might be like changing a bash, a terminal from bash to use ZSH, right? Or it could be lots of little things that we've learned on the serverless side of the things. Like we might have experimented with something from Sam and we found particularly interesting, and we just want a quick small article about it. So that kind of brings me to the point of today. We are going to dive into Amazon Lightsail. I'm keen to see if anyone has used Lightsail previously, but Lightsail is a really easy to use system that allows you to launch a blog using WordPress or launch a number of things really, really quickly. And you don't have to think too much about management of the server. You just go, I want a Ghost blog, or I want this CMS setup, or I want a server with Python and Django. So you can kind of just click all that together and then deploy your code. We'll go into that in a little bit, but Paul, let's go through the what's new first, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Let me just bring that up. So there was a number of different oh, you put it up, sorry, Matt.
Yep.
There was a
See it.
number of releases that came out over the last week, and there was a couple that I thought were quite good and quite interesting ones. Um, the first one, and I don't have a whole lot of experience working with Oracle databases, but there's an Amazon Aurora. So Aurora is our Postgres and MySQL compatible relational database engine. But Postgres Aurora supports Oracle FDW extension. So Matt and I were just chatting about this right before the stream and wondering exactly what this is. And a quick read of this says it's basically a library that you can use and leverage within your Postgres databases to enable your Postgres database to connect directly to an Oracle database. And so you might think like, why is that? Why would I use something like that? Think about in the past, and I've done this before when you're having to migrate between, different instances of like SQL Server, or moving from one environment to another, and you need to keep that live, or you need to keep that hot. Or you need to just reach in as you're slowly migrating across and have access to both databases at the same time. And so with SQL Server, like this would be like, a linked server, effectively what you would do. So you would say with Microsoft SQL Server, you would say, um, from one machine, I have a direct link to another machine, and I can query that database exactly. And you can, do what you need to do across the two database actual machines. And that's what this does. So here, so if we look up Oracle FDW, we can see that it's a foreign data wrapper for Oracle that enables you. And if we sort of go down here, we basically say create this extension within Postgres that enables a connection to an Oracle database that exists. So then on that machine, you can have create tables and run queries and so forth between your Postgres database directly into your Oracle database. So that could be like really handy if you're halfway through a migration to be able to access both systems at the same time. Probably not something you want to keep running in production for a long time, and maybe you don't even want to run it in production. But is useful for helping to migrate those services across. And so, we do have our DMS product that helps you migrate off, or migrate from Oracle to Postgres, but this is an additional tool that is now available to you if you're running Postgres flavor of Aurora.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yep. So AWS Security Hub. So Security Hub is like, how would you describe it, Matt? Like a single pane of glass to enable you to look at controls and reporting around controls and security security events that will occur within your AWS environment.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on, right? It's the main place. Yeah, let's open it up in console. It's the main place you go to find out security and compliance, and I think it connects you into a lot of the other AWS services and tools that help in the security space as well, based off of recommendations.
So, like just for this account here, we haven't turned it on. It said at the start there was a 30-day trial, and then you have this dashboard with a whole bunch of insights and findings, a whole bunch of like centralized reporting that automatically picks up some of these settings from your account. It's looking in, looking for things like best practices around your organization. But you can also push events in here as well, so you can set things in, like a good example was, I don't know, if you had something in your pipeline that was doing some sort of scanning, and you found a vulnerability or something that you wanted to highlight or surface, you'd be able to push that event into Security Hub as well. As you can see here at the top, it'll take 2 hours to see the results. Maybe I'll leave that open and we'll check towards the end and see whether something's coming in and populated.
Yeah.
But
I think I was going to extend on that actually, Paul. Like one of the things I was going to say is like, Security Hub's going to find things from CloudWatch events and other bits and pieces from your account. But the cool thing about it is it integrates into other services like GuardDuty, Inspector, Macie. So if you have those particular services turned on in your accounts, you're going to get additional findings here as well. Some of the recommendations might point you to start using some of those security tools as well, in a wider context as well. So you might start using Security Hub, and then you have issues around S3, and then you might look to use Macie to give you a bit more extra governance in S3. So it's pretty cool.
Yep. So this announcement this week is like there's 18 new controls, 18 new controls to its foundational security best practice, and 8 new partners. So Security Hub now supports 159 security controls. So there's a lot of advice and controls and an oversight to your account already to help put you in a position where you can identify where you're not using best practices, or where something is not encrypted, or if you've got a workload that you're looking to take to PCI, take through the PCI process, like it can help identify specific settings that you may have not configured or not enabled around like security and best practices, and what's being exposed, what ports are open, all these sorts of things. Like one of the ones here is like RDS instances should be deployed in a VPC. There's still a lot of customers and people that will go ahead and not think about how they're deploying their application, deploy like RDS instances into like not a private VPC. So they've blocked out access to the public internet, but it's not inside a VPC. So how does that fit against like the governance model that they have for their required workload? So highlighting all of these controls in one central pane of glass is is really useful. And the other two that I thought were interesting, and I think Matt and I spoke about this one, we didn't really see it coming, was Amazon Memory DB for Redis. And so I've worked on many different platforms where we've needed a caching layer. So something that's running in memory that's like super fast to be able to retrieve short-lived pieces of information to be able to go ahead and serve up to our customers. And effectively nothing is faster than something that is in memory to do that. And Redis and Memcache are probably the two de facto standards for an in-memory type database. And we provide those through the use of Elasticache. So you can use either Redis or Memcache compatible engines to be able to help reduce latency on workloads that need access to data that either moves slow or moves slower than real time. That enables you to have a couple of seconds, or it could be even milliseconds of caching time. I know one of the applications I worked on in the past that we had cache times of like half a second, and you think like, why are you caching for half a second? Well, if you've got 100,000 requests coming in per second and you're caching for half a second, you can potentially save 99,998 requests to the actual source database across the 1 second period. So you can start to see where that using a cache becomes really important for like heavy traffic workloads. But in-memory database is effectively Redis that is completely durable. So Matt, do you have much experience with like working with caches and what customers come up with when they are using a cache, and how that works with hydrating, and what happens when you get a cache miss and so forth?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of experience with Redis in particular, and Elasticache. One of the things that I guess from working on that side is the resilience factor or the durability factor has always been an issue I've seen in some Redis-based apps, especially if you're not running over multi-AZ. So you might have an instance go down and you've pretty much lost like what was in the cache for that. And that sometimes impacts web users that are relying on the cache. Like you might need a token for a particular, I'm thinking back to my messaging service days, that you might have some tokens, you might have messaging IDs, conversation IDs stored within Redis, and losing those will break the link between that browser and that particular session that the user has, and so then they have to log in again for that session to be picked up, or you end up storing additional data in local storage. So I've got a little bit of experience with Redis, but I'm going to be really interested in maybe playing with this. I don't know if this is something that people would be interested in testing out, but maybe we could build a little app that's highly resilient and durable, and we can show the differences between standard Elasticache, Redis, and Memory DB. What are you thinking on this, Paul? Like this is brand new, and we literally did not see this coming at all. Like usually we know a little bit about the little bits of things that are going to drop, and this one was like bang, big surprise, which is cool.
Yeah. I think like in the community, we do see that there's a lot of talk about Redis being more than just like a cache. Like it is an in-memory database, and you can go ahead and leverage some of the features around that. And now that it's like durable, which means basically if I put something in Redis, it'll stay there until I tell it to go away, over a reboot, whatever that might be. You start to think about like what you might want to go ahead and like put in that database that is going to have incredibly fast read and write access. So I think, where does it say there somewhere? I was looking for when I was reading about, here we go. So achieve microsecond read and single digit millisecond write latency. Like, so this would be something that you might go ahead, and when you're thinking about something like a high frequency trading applications or marketplace for, those ad-based marketplaces where, within real time, you're doing real bidding, and you need that response as fast as possible from like an actual transactional database. And so that regardless of what sort of database you're working with, it's never going to be as fast as something that is running purely in memory. So it does open up the possibility of having like incredibly low latency applications dealing with memory DB. So I think it'd be fun to just go ahead and maybe like, I don't know, build like a really simple application and just see how easy it is to put items into memory DB and work with it and write some queries against that to be able to like order data as it come out. Of course, it's not going to be as rich query-wise as a traditional relational database, but there are would be mechanisms to be able to like take that data out and store it somewhere else to be able to do your reporting or large queries across that. So yeah, I'm interested to give it a go.
One of the really interesting things, and this is not AWS specific, but this week there was large advances in memory speeds and memory sizing made. So if you're tracking the news, like I think it was 512 terabytes of DDR5 memory that's like at a minimum 4 times faster than the current memory that we have. That was kind of exciting, and I see peering memory DB, something like this to like that jump that we're having in terms of like the speed coming with DDR5 and the sizing that it's capable of doing. I think this might be an emerging pattern over the next 3 or 4 years that we see adoption of as DDR5 becomes standard in different instances or servers or whatever, as well as people's machines in general.
Yep, and like based off the back of that, and I do mention this often enough that when we think about building workloads and we're building like workloads that are serverless and we're paying per minute, we're paying for that compute time. So the faster you can write and read that data, retrieve or write that data, persist that data, the faster your function is going to execute. So if you're thinking about a serverless environment where you're using Lambda, if you can all of a sudden shave a few milliseconds for every single read and every single write off, and those few milliseconds go from, let's just say an average request is 30 milliseconds, and you're pulling, even just 3 milliseconds off a 30 millisecond request, that's 10%. And you think about like, a bill across a whole year, if you can just immediately save 10%, well, that could end up being quite a lot of money. And, you have to weigh those costs up against like, what's the cost of them in-memory database instance per hour? But you can start to see where you can do cost optimization on your workloads to, both provide a better experience for your customer, but also have, cost optimize your workloads and using, the most appropriate service for that workload. So yeah, I'm just quickly scrolling here and having a look at the prices. It's not available in all regions at the moment, but yeah, you can see the prices per hour is there. And then there's a cost of volume when you're reading and writing as well. So you have to weigh all of those pieces up. But the second part of in-memory database is that AWS DMS, so the database migration service, now also supports Redis as a target. So if you were thinking about leveraging this, or you had an application where you thought this might be of value for you, and you were wondering how would I get my existing data sets out and into Redis, well, we could go ahead and look at like DMS, and I think one day maybe this is something for the show as well, to show how we would take an existing database. Let's just pick like any relational database. We'll pretend that that's on premise, and then go ahead and migrate that into the cloud in some way, shape, or form. So Matt,
that's really cool.
Well, there's specific ones that you want us to talk about.
Yeah, I think let's hold off. I'm looking at the time. We've spent 20 minutes on what's new. I reckon let's get started exploring Lightsail. I know that there's going to be a ton of stuff that we'll speak about next week anyway. So what's new might drag on for 30 minutes, maybe. We'll see.
Sure.
So Lightsail, I guess the cool thing about this, and I've seen the chat's been jumping around, as I mentioned, Lightsail beforehand. A couple of people are already running WordPress sites. So Tony mentioned that just beforehand. Cost is quite cheap as well. We saw a couple of people talking about the cost of things from their AWS bill when using Lightsail. But if I rewind a little bit, Amazon Lightsail is really virtual private servers, similar to what you might have had previously back in the day, in which you can set up like an instance of Django or an instance of WordPress, and you don't have to think about too much. You just have everything pre-deployed. you load your code in, or in a WordPress type environment, you go to the WordPress admin site, you start building out your blog. So Paul and I are really keen to have that blog that we mentioned at the start for any of the late joiners, where we can post little tidbits that we think of during the week, quick snippets. So we're actually going to set up a permanent instance of WordPress using Lightsail. One of the things though is, when I think of WordPress days, I know, like, I don't know if the metric's quite right, but 50% of the internet was PHP and WordPress back in the day is things that I'd hear. I think every developer has worked in PHP at some point in their life, and I know over the years PHP's gotten progressively better and better. And outside of the PHP side of the equation, like setting up a WordPress site back in the day was like literally, I'd ring or email a guy that managed a whole bunch of different servers, and he'd install cPanel. He'd pre-set up WordPress for me. I'd buy an SSL for $100, and then I'd start like building out this WordPress site and maybe doing some custom coding, logging, bringing in certain modules for tracking, let's say, little bits and pieces that I might want on the site, like making it more searchable in Google. Mind blank on the term, doesn't come to me right now, but yeah. So we want to get this set up today, but back in the day it was a hassle. It used to take me a week to do this. What's your experience with WordPress, Paul? I'm sure you've got some.
I accidentally clicked off that link there and it wouldn't go back. But yeah, like I've got 2 sites running on WordPress at the moment. I haven't really bothered about them too much. They run, but I would say that if $3.50 per month, that's US dollars. So maybe like at the moment about $5 per month. I'm probably paying more than that for my cPanel instance, which is hosted internationally and is not super performant. Actually, no, I have one blog, a community meetup that I run, and that's running on Lightsail at the moment. So I did forget about that. But yeah, like exactly like you, I would go and pay for cPanel, go in there, click WordPress, and it sort of went ahead and deployed it. And then I'd have to pay some extra fees for the SSL certificate, and then I'd be able to connect to like PHPMyAdmin and change database content and whatever you needed to do there. And that was okay, but from time to time it doesn't perform well, or something goes down, or the hosting provider has some sort of issues.
Or sometimes like, you'd email the hosting provider for 2 weeks, right, to upgrade your instance size. That was another thing that I had a couple of times. Yep.
And I've run like plenty of VPSs in the past, pre like AWS days, where I wanted something that was just a low compute powered virtual private server, and I've SSH'd that and go ahead and set up whatever I've needed to set up. And I just if I want something like WordPress or some of these cPanel-y like apps, I want to be able to do that easy. And so yeah, we just thought that it was worth a look at. Now I've set up Lightsail, like I said, like it must have been now, like I only just remembered that I had that running on Lightsail, but it must have been a long time ago. So it's changed quite a lot. But yeah, we thought that it would be good to set up like the blog and take everybody through that experience as we do it today, and do it live and see how we go. And I guess the idea will be we'll have blog.devsinshed.com, and we'll have an SSL certificate that we could log into at the end of today, and we'll see whether or not we can hook that up to some of the other options, because Lightsail is not just a VPS. So I guess if we go to features, we can see there's virtual servers, so the VPS. There's object storage, which is like an abstraction on top of S3. It's S3, but it gives you a nice UI for that. Simplified load balancing, so I guess we can put load balancing for those machines. I guess there's some sort of auto scaling there. Like we'll have to look at that.
Well, the other thing is VPS is really instances in the back end as well. There's container support too. One of the really cool things was like the escape hatches. So if you're like, there'll be a whole bunch of like preset Lightsail instances that you can launch. But if you outgrow what Lightsail has to offer, you can migrate to EC2 directly as well. So that might be something that's worth checking out. It doesn't look like you can migrate your database or load balancers and things in the current version. I don't know if that's a planned feature in the future. I have no idea. But I thought still it's pretty cool to be able to basically bring it back into EC2 if you outgrow it. And then very easily I could do a database backup and then restore like that database in like MySQL, RDS, or Aurora, MySQL, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I think that's a good call out. So the ability to upgrade to EC2. So if you were, happy using that for your smaller organization or business, whatever that might be, and then at some point in time, you're like, all right, we're ready now. We need, some more control or more granular control of what we're going to do. You have that ability to pull that out. As for the container, you can move the container around. Managed database, I guess you just have to take a backup and move it, like you said. So magically moving that in the future might be something that's
it does take snapshots and stuff. So if you can take snapshots of your database using Lightsail, but the issue is I think move to EC2 is fairly new, so you can't move to RDS or something like that. So that's when you do. Okay. You've got resilience in snapshots in terms of like upgrading DB sizes, but you do that database export and then load into RDS if you wanted to migrate.
Yep. So I thought let's sort of like dive in and have a bit of a look. So if we're in the console, we'll go to Lightsail. So Lightsail comes up in your console, but it sort of loads like a completely new instance. So as you can see, like I clicked on this just before the stream, but we've never been inside of it within this account. But I guess like maybe we'll just follow the tutorial, Matt, and see how we go.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think the idea of a slightly different UI is AWS is quite complex to work with. A lot of people need to know a lot of things to use AWS, which is why we have certifications, and Lightsail is supposed to be an easier drop into AWS land, right? So some people might enter and start using like AppRunner or Copilot or Elastic Beanstalk. Others might use Lightsail to migrate, some of their existing things if they're a web shop into AWS, and then as they learn more about AWS, they can pop out to the full console later.
Yep. So the very first piece is, I guess it's like you're looking at the region that we're at. So I guess I picked up the region that I was last in within that AWS console. Provides me with like, the option to change the region availability zone. Like this is just, I guess, like just more user friendly. Like we have flags so we can see easily where we're going to. We'll pick Sydney. As for the availability zone, I guess if we were to pick US East 1, we'd have a whole bunch more availability zones there. Let's see as that comes up.
And I saw Mumbai in Singapore, I think, in that list, as well as Korea and Japan. Yep. So there's good APAC support there, which is cool. Asia Pacific.
Yeah. So I'll switch it back to Sydney and then the availability zones. And one thing I'll sort of like, I do like to make this comment that because I pick zone A doesn't mean that your zone A will be my zone A. Like this is randomized on the back end because, most people will go Sydney zone A and otherwise we'd overload zone A. So this is randomly being moved around, even though it looks and will sit as zone A for me. Physically, like that might be different to your zone A.
And it's per account is a good call out as well, right? Like it's not going to shuffle zone A each time. It's shuffled when the account's created, like what zone A really is under the hood versus B and C, right?
Yep, correctly right. So your instance image. So interesting to see that there's Microsoft Windows blueprints. So I guess if you wanted an operating system, a Windows operating system, you'd be able to go ahead and get yourself a Windows Server 2012, 12, 16, and 19 Windows Server that you could just remote desktop to, and pre-configured with SQL Server 2016 Express as well. So I guess it's a little bit dated because we have SQL Server 2019, but yeah, I guess if you wanted that at really easy access, you'd click and go through, and you'd have Windows with SQL Server Express running.
That's pretty
neat.
But
we're going to pick Linux. We'll just have a quick look at what flavors of Linux that are available. So there's Amazon Linux, Linux 2, Ubuntu, Debian, free BSD. So I mean, I haven't seen anybody do anything really with BSD for quite a while. I don't have any customers that are using it, but it's there. OpenSUSE and CentOS. So, a variety of different flavors. If you were wanting to, move across your application, you'd be able to go ahead and pick any one of those. And I guess these are just based on some of our supported AMIs as well at the back end. But today we definitely want to pre-install WordPress on our environment. But it's interesting to have a quick look here of like what is on option here. So, you could pre-install something with Node, Drupal. You mentioned Ghost earlier. I guess if you wanted to use Plesk, so if you wanted to resell cPanel, to somebody else, or have cPanel available, if you were managing that for like, an internal team or something, you can go ahead and install Plesk or cPanel to manage that.
So the same thing is if you've got WordPress multi-site there as well, right? So if you wanted to go one layer, higher up, you could just manage multiple WordPress sites with that package instead of Plesk as a whole.
Yep. So that's right. But also, if you wanted to run your own instance of GitLab, now that might be an interesting thing to go ahead and do. If you want your own private Git repository, like here you go for like $3.50 US a month, you get GitLab hosted yourself and fully private to you. But we're going to pick WordPress. So these are the Bitnami packages. So I know if you go to the Amazon Marketplace and you look for a specific AMI, if you're looking to deploy an EC2 instance, so maybe we'll just do that really quickly. You'll see that that will be available as a selectable AMI from the marketplace. So if we went, so there we go. Like this is where we're seeing those certified Bitnami WordPress instances. So that's all pre-configured for you, and it's got some an additional like setups to basically get WordPress running like optimally within this environment, and is constantly updated all the time.
Launch scripts. There we go.
Yeah, launch script. So I guess we could go ahead and put in something like we do with your user data. So whatever you might want to go ahead and do. So you could type something to like, I don't know, whatever you want to go ahead and do, and install some extra utilities on that machine or something like that.
Modify Nginx or something, right? Like it'll just be bash scripts that you might have that are custom to some of your learnings based on your WordPress or whatever it is requirements previously.
Yep, and that could just be anything, and that could be as simple as like if you wanted to on that WordPress instance install like I don't know, a chat server or something like that, and you had automated that process with shell scripts, you could paste that in there, kick that off, and go ahead and do that. And maybe part of that is pull down a whole bunch of existing WordPress files or images, and put them onto the machine, or set up some cron jobs or something to purge logs or something. I don't know. Change your SSH key pair. So if you wanted to go ahead and SSH into that instance, so you can change that. I guess you can probably, you can create a new one or you can upload one. So if you've created an SSH key pair within the console, I guess you can upload that and it will go ahead and use that. And you can create a new one here. I'll download this in case we need it later. If we need to SSH that machine.
Well, I kind of actually doubt it for WordPress, but we'll see, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm suspecting we'll just be within WordPress admin and the Lightsail. Hopefully, Lightsail has some nice options to set up SSL quickly.
Yep. So backups. So if you want automatic snapshots and backup instances, so like on a daily schedule. So I guess we'll turn that on, and then we can go ahead and pick the the time that we want that to happen, and we'll just do that at midnight every. We'll do it at midnight. So at midnight every night, that's going to go ahead and take a backup of our machine. So handy, to do that automatically. I'm guessing now, and I'm making like a big presumption here, that when we select WordPress, this is going to install MySQL locally on the machine as well. It's probably all, it's all pre-configured, so we're not going to have to configure a database today. Though I guess at time we could, hook that into a database. So yeah, okay, so we're back up to like choosing the instance plan. So I guess we can like look at what some of the options are here. So just some storage, some options here around the pricing models. So if we sort of have a look and we think like what sort of storage and usage we're going to use per month, like what's the traffic like, I don't know whether you can scale this up or down. We'll check that later. But if we can back up and restore it, we'll go with that. But I think for now, we'll probably try the smallest instance. And this should be
And
fine.
This is fairly familiar for anyone that's dealt with VPS providers. It's formatted in a very similar way. It's like $3.50 and you get like this one CPU. Yeah.
20 gigs of space, 512 gigs of transfer in and out of the cloud, and 512 megs of RAM. So this will easily run WordPress, no problems, and a database. So I think this should be perfectly fine for us. So we'll select that. So what do we want to call it? We'll call it
DevShed blog.
Yeah, DevShed blog. Tagging, if we want to go ahead and set up some of those like tags. So this is key only tag or key value tag. So I guess you can just add like a specific tag, but then you could add like a key value tag as well if you wanted to do some like resource identification later. For this, I won't do anything other than I'll put some of our stuff is tagged as DevShed. Some because we we've got a couple of things in this account, and sometimes we have to like go through and delete the things that we've just spun up and left it there. So I've kicked that off, and we'll see what happens after that's being created. So looks here like, okay, so it's in a pending state. So I wonder sort of how long this takes to go ahead and set up. I'm just going to check if they're. So we've got someone in the audience using the $3.51 that they're currently using for their WordPress site. Tony has got that. So it'll be interesting to see like how snappy it is and how it performs globally with such a small instance type running that WordPress blog. I expect it to be like reasonably snappy, especially with not much data on it or non-heavy like resources or assets on that as well. Well, that just changed state there. So did you see that, Matt?
I missed it actually.
It literally just changed state. So it went from being dimmed out to available. So it is running at the moment.
And running, yep.
Yeah, so let's just have a look at this. So we can connect to it, we can manage it, stop, reboot it, or delete it. I'm guessing if we click on this, we get, if the instance has just started up. So I'm guessing this is like a shell, so we can directly connect to this as a shell. We might give that a minute. I wonder if that's using like SSM to connect behind the scenes. We might try that again in a couple of minutes if it doesn't come up this time.
Well, we could actually just do just a quick look at the ports as well to see if MySQL is running locally on that server, which we suspect, right? Just can do that to kind of verify.
Now, so yeah, we'll check what happens in a couple of minutes. But
let's have a look at the rest.
Yeah, let's see what happens if we click on it. So here we go. I got my public IP. So I assume if I go to that IP, I'm probably going to get that welcome to.
Daryl Duck just mentioned he's built a Minecraft server using Lightsail for his nephews. That's pretty cool.
Keeps redirecting.
Are you still running your Minecraft servers, Paul, for your kids?
Yes, it is running.
Yep.
It keeps redirecting this to HTTPS. So I can't connect to it at the moment. So let's just have a look. Connect to my instance using the browser. Password you can use. Instance uses your default key pair to sign in. Okay, so that must be the SSH client to connect to that instance. But how do we actually bring it up in the browser? Let me just check on a secondary browser why it keeps redirecting. Yeah, okay. So I don't know why that is happening on this browser. Yeah, here we go. So
maybe.
Yep. Yeah, it's come up here, so we can see that the blog is deployed, and it seems like really fast. It doesn't have SSL on it at the moment, so let's go ahead and see. First off, let's go and connect into that WordPress instance because it's not telling us how to connect in. So,
well, it's always -wp -admin, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. So it's WP admin, but like
what's the login?
What's the username and password for it?
I'm wondering if there's just a default one that's set. Yeah, I'm just looking at the same.
Okay, we do need to SSH to the machine to get that password.
Okay.
Okay, so so while that's the quick start is loading up, we can have a look at some of the options that are around here. So we can see that machine has 20 gigs attached to it. Guess you can create and attach new disks, so that's pretty good.
That's pretty cool. Yep.
Couple of metrics, so CPU overview. What else is there? So there's a bunch of different things that we can look at, like the traffic going in and out, status checks, instance checks for failures, CPU burst capacity as well. So we can see here that, like, at the moment it's quite low.
Yep. And alarming.
So I guess we can
cool.
add. Yeah, so that's handy. We can add alarms. So if CPU utilization goes really crazy, we guess we can set up an alarm. And this looks like we can say, if CPU is greater than or equal to like some sort of percentage for a couple of times over the last percentage of minutes. So this seems fairly configurable and fairly easy. And we can have that SMS me or email. So that's pretty interesting. What about the advanced settings here? If a data point is missing, okay. So determine what to do if for whatever reason that metric hasn't come through.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty interesting there. We'll have a quick look at what's under networking.
How easy is it to upgrade the instance? Like if a blog goes crazy on let's say Reddit, and you need to upgrade that instance size, the alarms trigger. I guess it's just scaling up the instance size, right? You can't like fan out a bunch more services dynamically to kind of cope with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, you could load balance it, right?
Yeah, I guess yeah, that's right.
And I guess, look here, it's got distribution, so we could set CloudFront in front of that, so that would help offload that as well. But if you load balance it, you would lose the state of the WordPress instance, I guess. And secondly, if you load balance it, you would probably want to have a database
underneath. Yeah,
have a separate database. So it's got a basic firewall and says what rules do we want to allow in. So we've got SSH and any IPv4 IP address will be able to connect, but they won't be able to log in without that key pair. And port 80 and port 443. Here's a snapshot. So I guess if you were going to make a major change, you could create a manual snapshot. And here's where we configure that daily backup. So that's handy. If we had those snapshots, I guess you'd be able to look at those. Maybe I'll click create a snapshot and see how long that takes, just for interest's sake. Look at our tags, and we can add and modify those tags as required. And history, I guess. Yeah, here we go. It's just some, I guess, like similar to like CloudTrail events, the stuff that is happening to that instance as we go through. So maybe let's go back to the start and see if we can connect across to that instance. Okay, so
there we go.
Now I can. Let me think, because this is going to show the password and people will be able to get that password really quick and log in.
We can remove your screen very quickly, maybe.
Yeah, remove my screen and let me know when.
Done. Screen's removed.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that.
Are you just going to use password 01 again?
I prefer just password 1. I think that's
paperclip 1,
a safer password.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me just make sure this logs in. It didn't actually say what was the was it Bitnami? Was the
default user is just user.
User, is it?
Yeah, I think it's user.
Okay. Okay, I've got. You can reshare my screen now, Matt.
Cool. Back in.
So yep, that's good. Now we're into our WordPress. Interestingly, we've got updates immediately, so maybe we'll go ahead and we'll run those updates. I'll just go ahead and
so many people target WordPress. It was such a critical thing to do back in the days, to constantly make sure you're on the latest version, or else you're going to get into trouble a couple of weeks if you'd left at age.
Yep. So if we want to put SSL on this, and I don't necessarily want to put SSL on the machine itself, we probably want to put that on a load balancer, right? So if we go, like, do you think that would be probably the best way to go ahead and do this?
I think so, but it depends on how Lightsail usually wants to do this. So let's go
static IP address. So we don't really care about that. Map my domain to WordPress. So it's got creating DNS zones. So maybe let's just do a DNS zone for this first.
Yeah,
we'll follow the instructions here. So it says to route traffic to the domains, we recommend you transfer management of your DNS to Lightsail. You can manage DNS Route 53. So complete the prerequisites. So, okay, so we'll create the
Domain
DNS
name,
zone in Lightsail console. Let's just have a look at the prerequisites. Is this going to want us to delegate the whole domain across? Registered domain name, confirm. We have that. I guess
create a static IP.
Did it say to do that?
Yeah, it said that in step 4.
Okay, all right, so we'll do that first. So that was networking. We'll create a static IP address for that. So we have a static IP address.
And it's attached to the instance underneath.
Yep. So where did it say to do the zone? Now we probably don't need to do that in here because I'm not going to delegate the whole zone to this. We can probably just take that static IP address and use that in Route 53, right?
Yeah, we could do it that way.
So this account does have that domain delegated into Route 53. We'll have a look at the creating a zone in Lightsail for a minute, but I thought it would be interesting to go ahead and do it this way because probably most people would be doing this. So we've got the devs in the shared domain, and we'll create a record, and we'll call it blog, and that will be a record directly to this IP address. We'll leave the TTL standard, routing policy, all standard there, and so we create that record. That should now redirect or direct blog.devsintheshed.com to that WordPress instance. So let's just, DNS might take a minute to propagate, but let's just check it out.
Having a look at it as well, like some of the default tutorials say to just use Let's Encrypt and install like the certbot on the box.
Yep.
In the official documentation, but if I go to the main overview, it does actually recommend doing it through the load balancer, and that's a lot more seamless.
Yeah, that's the way I'd done it in the past with certbot. But I think we'll do it with the load balancer. Obviously, there's going to be a slightly more, cost with the load balancer. But as you can see, like DNS is already resolved. So blog.devsintheshed.com is already resolving to that blog. I can log into that and we can administer that if we want to. As we can see, those updates, they went ahead and they're all there now. It looks like there's a couple of plugins that have probably needed to be updated. So I'll, while we're figuring out the load balancer, I'll click update for all of these. Oh, our IP address might be wrong now. Because I changed it to the static IP address.
Yeah. And Tony just called out again in the chat that he's used certbot to do it in the past. I mean, I've probably done it many times with certbot and Let's Encrypt.
I didn't copy and paste that password. I never changed it, so I'll have to do that in a second. Don't worry, we'll ignore that for now. Let's just try and get the load balancer working.
Yep.
So how do we make a load balancer for this? What are we going to do here for the load balancer? So
do we actually pop out one? Could we pop out of this instance and go into the network settings? So networking. Create load balancer.
Here's create a DNS zone.
Yeah.
So let's just quickly have a look at this. So if we'd registered a domain, Let's just call that modomain.com, like if we were to try that. I guess if we create that zone, that's going to give us the name servers. Yeah, so go ahead and update the name servers to go ahead and do that. And maybe this would have been, what we could have done was delegate the whole domain to this and switch the name servers across. So delegate the subdomain blog.com to this as a zone. If anybody's interested in understanding how that works, like let us know. We can go ahead and do that one day. But I'll delete that zone for now because we don't need it. So in networking, there was create a load balancer. We definitely don't want it there.
Yeah, we want it in Sydney, don't we? Yep.
Yep. So the load balancer will launch with the following protocols. Okay, so it'll launch with HTTP, but it won't with HTTPS. We'll have to make a certificate, and we'll do that later.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So we've got the dev shed balancer. So we know that we don't delete that later. And here's the pricing. So the load balance will cost $18 per month.
It's a bit more than the $3.50 for the instance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we're doing it a little more pristinely than installing it on the machine. Like I have plenty of machines where I've used Let's Encrypt to go ahead and take care of managing those SSL certificates. Even on my Raspberry Pi Zero, I'm using Let's Encrypt and CertBot to go ahead and do that. It's perfectly viable as well. Let's Encrypt will renew the certificate every 3 months. And if you set up CertBot, it'll renew that certificate all the time for you as well. So
I'm just going to put the links. Yep.
Yeah, thanks. So the target instances. So now we've got a load balancer. We want to point that load balancer at some target. And I'm guessing we only have one. So that's going to be that machine there. So it looks super easy. What's the health checking? So let's have a look. So I guess if we wanted to, I mean, the customized health checker, I guess it probably just goes to the root of that website and determines whether it gets a 200 back or not. That might be like slightly resource intensive because it's, calling the database all the time. And then multiple, if it's WordPress, it's probably a whole bunch of queries going on there. You might want to customize your own health check page yourself, and, call it healthcheck.php or something like that. But for now, I won't customize that. Delete that out. So that looks okay there. Inbound traffic. So there's no certificates available, so we can't set that up.
We can create a certificate here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and create that SSL certificate. So that will be blog, the certificate name. Okay, so it's giving it a name. We are only going to have this one subdomain on there, so we don't need any alternate domains. I guess this is similar for anybody that's used ACM. You can add your alternate domains there. We'll create that. I wonder how this sort of works, actually. I wonder how it knows that you own that.
I wanted to see if it's doing anything in ACM in the background, right?
I'm guessing you can't see it.
Yeah,
I bet it is, but I bet you can't see it.
But it is ACM validation.aws, right? If you look at the value.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So we need to see names here. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this to Route 53, and I'll create those records to validate that certificate. I know that I want to delete out a little bit, so it'll be just that first bit. So there, and the value will be that. So this will provide, we'll tell ACM that we actually own that domain name. So it's okay to create an SSL certificate for us. So it's validating that we have ownership of that domain name. I wonder whether you had the zone, if you delegated the zone out, whether that would do that automatically for you. Probably be interesting to see how that works.
Probably would be. The other way that validation can happen is if you don't own, if you can't enter the CNAME and this and that, there's email validation, but it takes a lot longer. It's a very manual process.
Yep. Yeah, it'll require like admin@thedomain.com or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
So session persistence. So this would be like if you needed sticky sessions. So if you had a machine that you were logging into even if they were like sharing the backend database, the login session might be stored like in memory on that machine, and so therefore you might want to stick to one specific instance unless that instance went down, in which case you would be okay with your having access to the application, but you need to be logged in again. Because we only got a single instance, we don't need to worry about that. We won't go ahead and turn that on. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long this takes, and I'm guessing this doesn't have a socket, so it's probably not automatically checking. I mean, refreshing the page, but let's just have a look and see.
Oh wait,
Well, it's issued it.
HTTPS.
Yep.
Yeah, go up.
It's issued the certificate. Yep.
See,
so
HTTPS
it has issued the certificate.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll do that in just a second. And we can see here that like that was nice. It's really fast, created a certificate for us. And then if I pick that certificate, I should be able to go ahead and put that on. So that's good. Do we need to save anything?
Does it allow us to remove HTTP or redirect HTTP?
No, I think in WordPress you can do that. No, I think you have to put a like a rewrite rule on WordPress to do that. Yeah, so there'll be a rewrite rule that we could do to do that. But if we went back to this now and we refreshed that, and I went, oops. So blog.devsintheshed.com, if we went HTTPS, blog.devsintheshed.com. Interesting, it's doesn't like the certificate yet. Certificate not secure. Example.com. Don't know. Maybe it has it not propagated out yet or something.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Let me double check on my end. Yeah, I'm getting invalid SSL as well.
Just check. Is there any type of typo or something that we've made here? Because I would have thought that actually, like we're using the static IP address, but DNS is not pointing to the load balancer.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
So this is the problem here. So now we've got a DNS name for the load balancer. So now we need DNS to point to the load balancer. So we'll update that. So where is that? Yeah, this one here. We'll edit that record, and that will now be a CNAME, and that will point to that. So I'm guessing like this would probably be a lot easier if we were to have delegated that whole domain over. And maybe we'll do another session, like one of our side projects, where I'll delete all of that and redelegate the domain and redo it again. But let's see. Like DNS is probably not going to update that quickly, but let's just give it a go. This is probably
we've got no one after us. I've just checked, so we do have a bit of time if we want to go over.
It'd be if anybody in the audience is using this and if it's working, like let us know, because that DNS will probably be pushing up those changes and not working at the moment. Interestingly, like it is working on one of my other machines, but it's getting a 503 error now.
Well, did we attach the instance to the load balancer? I can't remember if we did that.
I thought I did. So here's the target instance. Did I not save it?
No, it mustn't have. Go down. You've got to attach.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Yeah. Attach. I didn't attach it. So the 503 error is expected. So if I click on this, this will give us, yes, this SSL certificate error because there is no certificate for that, which is the CNAME. But if I accept that and I accept the rest and continue, the blog is working behind the load balancer. So we know the load balancer is working itself. Now, whether or not DNS has updated enough for this. It's definitely working in a different browser for me. And it'd be interesting if anybody in the audience can let us know whether that works. Just paste the blog URL in there, Matt.
Yeah, I've just done that. It works for me in private browsing mode, so it's definitely working now.
Okay.
So I can see the WordPress site with SSL.
Yeah, so maybe let's see. it still must be pointing, like DNS still hasn't updated on this machine here. So it'll probably just take a couple of minutes or something for that to go ahead and run through. Matt, do you want to like just share your screen and show that that's working? And while you do that, I'll re-log into WordPress admin.
Yeah, that's okay. Let me just hide my bookmarks. I'll take down your screen though. I'll get mine up in a second. And my screen should be popping up for anyone any second now. I think I've got the right one here. Yeah, here we go. So we've got a very pretty green blog, as you can see, hosted by WordPress, a beautiful Hello World article. So we'll start to populate this over the next couple of days with some content and maybe style it up a little bit more. But you can see connection security for blog.devsintheshed.com, securely connect to the site, verified by Amazon. And I don't know if it comes up in the browser, but because I'm just sharing my, let me actually, I'm on a widescreen, so I'm not sharing everything just because it's going to be a bit of a stretch. Here we go. So if I share the page info, I could view the certificates as well, but it looks like everything looks perfect. So we're in good order.
Yep, it's come up on my end now too.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
and the last proof, there we go.
We'll log in.
Okay, your screen's up now.
Yep. So if I was to go wp-admin.
Yeah, just fix up the A at the front.
And now we can see it. Interesting, it says it's not secure. Oh, that's probably because it's redirected. I'll just go ahead and update all of these. And I wonder whether it tells us what's the best way to set up. Map your domain to the website, read the binary, create a snapshot, because I think you need a rewrite rule to be able to rewrite every incoming request to HTTPS so that we automatically do it. I think this runs like Apache or something on that instance itself. So if we were to go back and connect with SSH.
You do it over SSH. So I've just shared everyone the article, and apologies to the cat. I'm indoors and she loves to get on video, so I'll just drop her down on the floor.
Yep. So
so I've shared the blog. Yep.
We can see here on the instance that it's like PHP MySQL isn't all installed on the same machine. Yep. I'm not sure whether this is like what it's running, like whether it's Apache or Nginx or anything. Yeah, it looks like it's probably like Apache that's doing it. So yeah, I'm guessing there's a rule that you can go ahead and do that. But yeah, I think when you go into what is it in one of the settings here, I thought there was a way to change this. Maybe you have to connect to the database to be able to connect this directly. And that will render out every single URL as like HTTPS. So we might have to go to the database to do that. So I'm surprised you can't just edit that in here. We might have to connect to PHPMyAdmin or something to go ahead and do that. But there we have it. Like the blog is up and running. If I was to put HTTPS there.
Yeah, if you actually open up the URL that I shared, let me put this in properly for you. So if you open that up, you can see Bitnami has a CLI, and that CLI allows you to change HTTP to HTTPS redirection to be true.
Okay,
so you do all of that through SSH. So it is using the cert tool, but you can see in the CLI there's a command that allows you to do the redirection. Yeah, just here, step 5. Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, this is going to not use a load balancer. This would have been easier to follow through because it's going to put the rewrite rule, but it's going to expect us to use this tool.
The cert that was generated with the bnsert tool. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, this should still work, right? Like if we it'll create a certificate on the local machine, which still should probably work okay. No, actually, that'll redirect all HTTP. Yeah, because it's then even the load balancer will be wanting to run on port 80, so that's not necessarily what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just need to figure out how to put the rewrite rule on it. It's probably something that I'd have to Google a little bit around to do it. But also I'd want to connect to the database because every time when I go in here, it is like each one of these links is going to be generated without the HTTPS at the start.
Yep.
So in effect, what might have been, it might have actually been easier to put certbot on and do it that way. So, you know, do you want to, should we try going through this?
I know we're a bit over time. What we could do is we could just do an impromptu stream and fix this up later tonight, maybe.
Maybe we'll do that. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. But I mean, like at the moment, you've got that. It will work with HTTPS at the moment. So if we go HTTPS blog.devs-in-shed.com, it is working. However, I'm pretty sure this is going to, like, it will render out HTTPS calls. But if you did go ahead and do HTTP, it'll allow you to go to that as well without doing forcing the redirect for that. So that's what we would like to be able to solve. But yeah, here it is. So blog.devsintheshed.com. We wanted to use WordPress because we'd already used things like Gatsby and Jekyll to go ahead and write static blogs, but you end up spending a lot of time like writing that in Markdown. WordPress just allows you to like copy and paste and upload images a lot more. And plus we thought it was a fun experiment to go ahead and do that with Lightsail. And part of the aim of this whole Twitch stream is to go and explore those AWS services and see how they work and, get a good understanding so that, we can help, people within the community when they've got problems. And secondly, we have a good idea of it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I know I was watching the chat just before. There's a couple of different pieces of advice. Comic Gauge Clothing said that we could use the CLI to do a search replace for HTTP to HTTPS.
Is there a WordPress CLI? I've never heard that before.
It might be after our time of using WordPress day to day. Somebody else said we're really simple SSL WordPress plugin. Someone said settings general, we could do updates there, but then there's a bit of work to do after that. So maybe we'll have a look at like a couple of the ways to do it. And once we've kind of worked out a way forward, we'll experiment with that tonight.
Yep. So it says WP search - replace. Let's just try it on this command, right? Like worst case, we've destroyed our blog.
Oh, we did take a snapshot. So
what was it? WP search.
WP space search - replace.
Yep.
And then you've kind of got like encapsulated HTTP -- and then you do the same but HTTPS. Yeah, let's just use the power of sudo.
I mean, that looks okay. Let's see.
And Wango Mano just called out, he's got free sites on Lightsail, which is pretty cool.
So it's logged me out. Unshare my screen so I can get that password again because I didn't copy. Oh no, I've got it. I got the password. Yep. Just hold on. Don't need to unshare. I copied it somewhere. Secret. I will go ahead and change that password later. So here it is. User. Oh, I saved it anyway. it didn't do it. Oh, I thought that might have updated that in settings. That's what I was hoping that it would do. Maybe that command just didn't work the way I expected it to work.
Yeah, we can look into it later. I do feel like it'll be fun to do a 10 or 20-minute stream later on. Let me just put the devs in the shared channel. I need to bookmark it so I can easily share, but we'll post an impromptu thing tonight on the dev shared channel here. So if it could be the case. But if you're keen to watch us finish off the last of it, we'll do that work here. What have we got in store for next week, Paul? I can't remember the topic that we're looking at for next week.
Let me have a quick look.
Yeah, I was just going to have a nose as well.
We've had so many interesting things coming up and changes. Well, next week we wanted to talk about, we had tentatively put down like a game that we were working on, right?
Yep. So we could do that.
Yeah, we're working on something with Phaser and AppSync and multiplayer and WebSockets and DynamoDB. Something that we've been working on putting together, and we thought it might be interesting for the audience to have a look at. We build so many applications that are like business-based applications, WordPress blogs, those sorts of things. But there's a lot more than just like business-based applications or website-based applications being built in the cloud. And we sort of built a little bit of a fun game around exploring some of the services.
Yeah, excellent. So we'll do that next week. Maybe we'll build a bit on top of the game, play around with a bit. We're building it into a bit of a workshop for fun on the side. So yeah, we can continue building it out. Maybe put in a new feature as well if we have enough time. But let's wrap up for now. I'm conscious of time in case there's anyone else that might want to queue in on the AWS Twitch after us. But we'll catch everyone at the same time next week. So we always stream 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock Melbourne AEST time. So we kind of keep to that. And then, follow the YouTube as well if you want to see some of those impromptu ones. Bookmark the blog. Eventually the Hello World page will disappear and we'll have something a bit more interesting to read later. But we'll leave everyone to it. And I hope you enjoyed your lunches or watching us for an hour wherever you're based. And we'll catch you later.
Yeah, thanks all. Don't hesitate to reach out and leave comments. Take care. Bye.
See ya. Bye.